Okay, the first thing I do when I'm doing my brows, especially if I'm going outside, is I put some primer on it. I have oily brows and I don't want my brows to be slipping and sliding throughout the day, so I use mattifying primer on my brows. And I just let that sit for a second so it dries into my skin for a little bit. Then I go in with my spoolie and I brush my brows upward. Then I take any brown pencil. Really, I don't have a particular pencil that I use. I just make sure that it's like a black brown or really dark brown, and I underline my brows. Then I go back in with my spoolie and I overline my brows. While I'm doing these lines, I make sure to keep as close as possible to my actual brow hairs. I do not want to go over and I do not want to go like in between them. I just want to go exactly where they stop. And this helps me to keep the original shape of my natural brows. So once I do that, then I take the pencil and I fill in basically fill in the lines. Brush my hairs back into place and I begin to fill in the lines using the pencil. If I want my brows to be darker, I go in with the powder, but for my everyday normal brow routine, this is exactly what I do. So once I've filled in my brows to my liking, I go back in with my spoolie and I just brush the hairs into place to see if there's any sparse areas that may need me going over again. If not, I take the front edge of my spoolie on the front edge of my brow and I try to create that ombre effect with little light strokes, and then I go into the tail of my brow just to make sure that I've captured the shape that I want. And here I did the same thing on the other side. And don't worry if you mess up, you can always clean it up with your concealer when you're cleaning up your brow. And here I'm blending out the front edge of my brow so as to create that ombre gradient effect. And this step is optional. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. I just like it, so I do it. Now I'm taking some concealer. I use my LA Girl Pro Concealer in Fawn for this step. But if you're just doing your brows, try to use a concealer that closely matches your skin tone. If you're just doing your brows, you're not wearing foundation, try to get a concealer that closely matches your skin tone so that you won't, all you'll need to do is just blend it out and you can wear your, the rest of your face out. But I do this step with a lighter concealer because I am going to apply foundation on top of it. So I'm going to cover up that light concealer that I used. Now I'm using the same concealer to clean up the top of my brows. And just be careful when doing this step because you can mess up your hard work. So just try to do little strokes at a time with the brush. Don't try to do everything all at once. And remember, the more you do this, the more often you do this, the more you'll get the hang of it. So it won't take you as long to do it. Once you get the hang of it, it won't take you as long to do it. Because it's pretty easy. So once I create the shape that I want with the concealer, I just make sure that everything is how I like it. Then I'm going to move on to the other eye and do the exact same thing on that brow as well. And don't worry, sometimes one brow would be a little off compared to the other one. They say brows are sisters, not twins, so yeah. If you make a mistake, you can always fix it. If you mess up the lines, you can always go back in with your pencil and fix the messed up area. And you can always clean up with your concealer. I create this kind of unibrow thing just to make sure that both my brows are on the same level, basically. And then I go in with a dense stippling brush, a small dense stippling brush, and I would blend out that concealer that I used to clean up my brows. Now at this step, if you use a concealer that's close to your skin tone, once you do this, you're practically fine and you can just go about your day. But I do wear foundation, so after this step I do go in with my foundation and go over the areas that I use the concealer to clean up my brows. If you're just doing your brows, you can pretty much stop here. But if not, you can continue watching and we could do our face together. And for my everyday foundation, I use the Maybelline Fit Me foundation. I use the color Cappuccino and the color Mocha. I mix the two together to get my correct shade. And I just apply it with my fingers. And then I'm going to blend it out with my Real Technique sponge. It's damp. And I'm just going to blend out that foundation. And the reason I love this foundation is because it's lightweight on the skin. It is medium buildable coverage, and also it leaves a skin-like finish. So I'll definitely recommend this foundation. It also comes in a matte version and a dewy version. Now I'm taking my concealers. I'm using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus concealers. I like these concealers because they're not too thick, but yet still they're not too thin. I'm also using my Maybelline Fit Me concealer in the color Cafe, and the Wet n Wild concealers are in the color medium, medium deep, and medium. I'm going to take that sponge, the same sponge I used to do my foundation, and I'm going to use the other side, and I'm going to blend out my concealer. And I start with the areas that have the least amount of concealer first, like my chin, my nose, and my forehead. And then I move on to areas with the most concealer, like under my eyes. And I just make sure to get in every little crease and crevice because you do not want your concealer to start creasing on you. Once I'm finished blending this out, I will go in with my Sacha Buttercup setting powder, and I'll apply that to first my under eye and then the rest of my face that I've highlighted, like my forehead, my nose, Cupid's bow, chin. And I'm just applying it to the areas where I need it to set and stay in place. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do some reverse contouring with my Sacha powder just underneath the area where I would usually contour on my face. Then I'm going in with a big fluffy brush, and I'm using some of my RCMA No Color powder to set the rest of my face, and also to brush away that Sacha Buttercup powder that I used to set the highlighted areas. And I just make sure to take this powder all over my face because throughout the day I do get oily, and I find that this powder really helps me to stay matte a little longer. So that's why I make sure I go over my whole face with this powder. Now I'm taking that Wet n Wild concealer in medium, and I'm applying it on my lids, and I'm gonna blend that out with the Real Technique sponge. I do this step because, like I mentioned numerous times in this video, I have oily skin, so my eyelids get very oily throughout the day. I find that once I put some concealer on it and I cancel out the discoloration and I set it with a translucent powder, it stays matte all day. So this is why I do this step. And I'm taking that same RCMA colorless no color powder, and I'm using it to set my my eyelids, basically. And I'm repeating the same steps on the other eye. Now I'm going to bronze up my face. Sometimes I contour, sometimes I don't, but most times I just bronze up my face. And I'm using the Black Radiance Pressed Powder in Golden Almond. And I use this just to go over the areas where I did not highlight, like my cheekbones, under my neck, and around my forehead. This helps me to bring back some dimension to my face, bring back some color, and some structure as well. I also take it underneath my lower lip just to give my lip a more powdered appearance. It's subtle, but it works. I'm also going to take that powder and get a smaller brush, and I'm going to contour my nose with that powder like I'm doing here. And I create two lines on the side, a V at the bottom of my nose, at the tip of my nose, and then I create a line going across because I like the button nose effect, and it also prevents that stark line that I see on a lot of people that I don't like. But I do this, and then I go in with my face brush, and I diffuse the lines so that it looks blended and well put together. I also bring that line into my crease area of my eyes so as to create a natural shadow effect. Alright, now I'm going to take the Black Opal Loose Deluxe Setting Powder, and I'm taking it in the color Dark. And I'm going to go over my whole face with using that powder. So I'm going to take it on this big face brush, knock off the excess, and I'm going to go over my whole face with this powder. This is to give everything a natural looking finish, and if there's any white cast or too much of the translucent powder on my face, this mellows it out so that it matches. Now I'm taking this angled brush and I'm taking some blush. This blush is by NYX. It's in the color Cinnamon. It's a peach orange color. And I take that just a little bit because this blush is really, really pigmented. And I apply that to my cheekbones. Well, the apples of my cheeks, as I should say. And yeah, this is pretty much it. If you want, you can stop here and just do, your wing liner, mascara, and some lip gloss and go about your day. But I will do an eye look, which will be linked in a different video, and the link to that video will be in the description box. So if you want to see that video, just click the link below and it'll take you to that video. And again, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe.